Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Eaton, Ionna, and InfyPower. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware and software, gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. Also, Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. And InfyPower, the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. You join me here at the hub with my 2019 Tesla Model 3. Longtime viewers of Out of Spec will remember this car and recognize it and remember all the videos we've done with this over the years. And it's really become a staple in the out of spec fleet. It's something we're not going to get rid of really ever. I actually tried a few years ago to sell this car, thought, let's get rid of it, we'll move on. And the viewers freaked out. They said, no, so many videos, so many memories. I think a lot of people have sort of an emotional attachment to this car, as do I. A lot of sentimental value here. So much fun filming with this all over the country. This car has been to, I bet, all 48 contiguous states, I would imagine, and Canada and others. So what we're going to do in this video is give you a little bit of an update on the car. Not a full ownership update. We don't need to go into the cool Mountain Pass performance suspension or all the other stuff I've done with it. But I want to talk about the battery pack in my 2019 Model 3 because we've just crossed a major milestone with it. We've just crossed 150,000 miles on this car. And what I want to do is look at the battery health. And coincidentally, Tesla just updated and changed their battery health sort of monitoring system, if you will. There's sort of a test you can run as a consumer, and it will spit out a number to say, hey, your battery's at 70% health or 100% health or whatever it might be. And so I'm going to run that test on this car. We're going to go through the results. We're going to talk about how I've used it and sort of my thoughts around battery aging, capacity loss, and what I do to take care of my cars here at the hub. Well, one of the most annoying things about electric cars, and I think this is something we could probably all agree on, is they're never really as good as they are on day one. And I mean that in terms of a capacity standpoint. Battery packs do not gain capacity over time, they lose capacity over time. And that means that when your car is fresh and new, you get the most performance out of it. And then every day that goes by, every year that goes by, you'll have less and less and less usable capacity out of the battery. Now, many people in general, like that, first of all, that just sucks. There's no way around that. Yes, it's annoying. Many people overstate that out in, from what I hear on internet, a lot of the old people on Facebook going, your electric car can't last more than 50,000 miles. Well, that's really not the case. Capacity loss does exist. It's just small percentages compared to others. And it seems that different battery packs and different chemistries and different implementations of the cell groups age differently in different vehicles. And so what I mean by that is some manufacturers can hide degradation into buffers. Some really do suffer very quickly. And sometimes there are actual problems with the battery that show up as a capacity loss when in actuality it could just be a dead cell or something really bad happening in there that can fool someone into thinking their car is losing capacity very quickly. So this is quite a complex topic, and it's going to really mostly be centered around my Model 3 in this case, because I think a lot of you, including me, are interested to see how well the battery pack is holding up and performing after 150,000 miles. So we'll run through all of that use and how we've used the car. It's had a lot of supercharging, a lot of track use. It has not lived an easy life. And I think before we get into that, let's just talk about what are the different chemistries out there? What are they known for? What are the different types of degradation profiles we expect to see? and what some automakers do to kind of fool the user into thinking there isn't as much degradation as there might be. So the first thing to talk about is cell type. And, form factor, from prismatic, pouch, or cylindrical is one component, but also most importantly would be the chemistry of the cell. You have NMC or NCA, which this car's an NMC pack. Those are very similar in their long duration performance and overall, performance of the cell over time. And then there's LFP. So the two main groups to think about are like your high nickel cells and your lithium iron phosphate. And in general, a lot of the rhetoric around LFP, including from me, and I still do believe this, is LFP is a hardier chemistry. And you'll see a lot of entry-level models, like Ford's new entry-level model, Tesla's entry-level models, although they just canceled it, but that was probably due to geopolitical issues more than anything else, just where the batteries were sourced from and the money around that. And Rivian, of course, has an LFP battery they're offering in their standard vehicles. Those batteries in general are believed to be more durable, longer lasting, and a hardier chemistry than NMC. NMC, like in this vehicle, in the same size factor, can have more energy density, which means you can charge or you can go farther on that initial on that same size battery pack. So higher energy density and typically better charging and discharging performance. Although we've seen, like, Zeekr Golden Brick was an LFP battery that just loved to charge fast and still is the fastest charging vehicle from a C-rate perspective I've ever personally tested. So there are always trade-offs. Cell design, cell type is something I'm going to get more into and share more with you guys as we talk to experts in the industry and look at test data. A lot of these tests take years to do to simulate aging and, especially calendar aging. And so more data is coming in on the performance of these cells. And in general, I think everything is outperforming the expectations in terms of how long batteries would last in electric cars. A prime example is that one over there, that RAV4 EV all the way up front, uses a nickel metal hydride battery, an NIMH, which is not really used at all in electric cars anymore. But I think Toyota only thought that battery would last 5 to 10 years. Here we are about 25 years later. I can still drive that car around just fine. I think Declan, one of my buddies, did a range test just around the city, got over 70 miles on it. And, it's just like batteries do last longer than most people were thinking. But of course, there's many external factors that influence capacity loss. So in general, I guess what I should do is talk about this particular car, and then we'll go into how I've used it and everything. So this Tesla Model 3 was equipped with the original Panasonic NMC pack from Tesla. And it's, if I remember correctly, like a 74 kilowatt hour pack, plus or minus. And at about 100,000 miles, I went through a whole really extensive set of testing where we looked at the range hit, we looked at efficiency differences, we looked at battery capacity, and we charged it from full, ran it to dead, and we saw how much energy we could pull out of the battery pack. And from a user perspective, typically something I always do whenever we buy a new car is I'll charge it to full, we'll drain it to dead, typically at 70 miles an hour because we tie it into a range test. We look at how many kilowatt hours we pulled out of the battery pack during that test, and that's a great starting point. And then whenever we want to measure capacity later on into the future, we would do the same thing. You charge it to full, you drive gently to reduce heat loss all the way till the car stops moving, use all the buffers, account for any BMS sway or anything from when voltage clicks off up top to when voltage clicks off on the bottom, and then you can see how many kilowatt hours you pulled, and that's your reading. Some people will look at the estimated miles at 100% in their Tesla and gauge, oh, compared to new, my car, showed 310 miles when new. Now it's only showing 260 miles, or must be down significant amount. That's not the best way to gauge degradation. It gives you an indication. It's a general region as to what the BMS believes might be left at 100% in there. But really, the best way to do it is to actually drain the cars. The last point I'll make on measuring capacity is you can never measure battery capacity from charging. And what I mean by that is a lot of people will put a meter on their charger, EVSE, or use a DC fast charger and charge it from 0 to 100 and look at how much was delivered. You can never do that because there are charging losses. The car is running pumps. not every bit of the energy that goes into the port actually goes into the battery, and it can really skew your results. In fact, you can even look at some of like the EPA testing documents that are out there for how cars are range rated. They always log EVSE delivered energy, and I can't figure out why, because it's interesting to know what it would take from the grid, but the losses are totally different every time depending on ambient conditions, if it's running an AC compressor or something like that. And you can just never measure capacity from charging. You can only do it from discharging, except there is one exception to this. If you have internal software in the vehicle that can measure exactly how much energy is going into the battery with as accurate as a meter as possible. Now, most metering systems in cars are not very expensive sensors. That's not like instrumented high quality test equipment. It gets you most of the way there. And even Tesla, to an extent, doesn't use the highest quality meters in their vehicles. We do see variances from time to time compared with instrumented data, but it gets you in the region. And with Tesla, this new battery health test that's available to pretty much everyone except Cybertruck owners now, it actually does measure the charging data, but not from the port, but actually what's going into the battery pack. It's something that really users don't have access to in any car, but because of a built-in program like this, it actually does really match up. We've run this a couple times now with our testing data from going from 100% to 0. We are pretty much always in the region of what Tesla is showing here in this health test. So I think it's fantastic that this is user accessible. And yeah, I guess I'll show you what happens with the test. So if you want to jump in the car here, this is how you measure your battery health in an electric car. Now, there's many other things beyond just capacity loss or capacity fade to measure health, for example. Yeah, you can pop on in, thanks. And so if I come over here to the car and you go to service, you can go all the way down and hit battery health. And I'm going to show you that menu here in just a little bit on how to get in there and how it all works. Tesla used to have a battery health menu buried in service mode, which if you don't know, if you have any Tesla, you can go to the software tab, hold down on your model number, type in service, and then you can unlock a world of menus that will just keep you occupied for an afternoon learning about how your car works and digging into things. It's really fun. There's not much really you can do to blow up the car in here, but just be a little bit careful on what you're clicking on. But you can come over here and see your high voltage battery and bunch of other fantastic information throughout this entire system. So I have to give Tesla so many props for, honestly, early days being one of the worst of sort of third-party right to repair supporters to now having giving owners and repair shops the most level of transparency, the most level of access. You can subscribe through Toolbox to Service Mode Plus for like, I don't even know, not much per day. It's like a very reasonable price. And then you can remotely diag your car from anywhere in the world. It's so awesome what Tesla is doing to support third-party repair and to keep the cars on the road longer. Let's jump outside before we, sort of get into the actual test on this car. And just want to discuss what the parameters are that the car are looking at. In full transparency, I don't know. I would say the majority of the score after the battery health test has to do with capacity fade. If you look at kilowatt hours usable when new versus kilowatt hours usable today, that is probably the main driving factor, because every time we've run this test, we can subtract what we believe the car would have been from new if we didn't do a brand new test. I did in this one. And then we pretty much get the same number, but there's other things that can impact cell performance. There could be resistance issues where you may only get that capacity if you're really gently discharging the battery pack. As batteries age, if you're on them harder, if you drive them harder, your capacity might even go down quicker. There's also other issues that lead to capacity fade, lithium plating, dendrites formation, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all topics for another day. But in general, the battery health test seems to look at the overall capacity of the battery. So let's run through the test on this car. I'll share the results with you right now, and then we'll talk about how I've used the car and my recommendations for I would say preserving your battery pack for as long as possible. Well, I've just taken the Model 3 on a drive down to 3% state of charge. So I'm going to go, into the car menu, into software. We're at 152,000 miles on this one. I'm now going to go into service and we'll go to battery health. And you can see your battery is healthy. Your battery's energy retention is within the expected range based off of its age and mileage. I can optionally run the battery health test to compare our battery's energy retention to when it was new. To perform this test, your vehicle must remain connected to AC charging station for up to 15 hours. No problem, I'll leave it here in the garage. Once the test is complete, the range estimate display in your vehicle may be recalibrated. The test results are valid for up to 6 months. We have the option to run it again. So it says everything's good. It doesn't expect any issues. I would agree, but I'm sure in the last 50,000 miles since I've run a health test, we've lost some energy capacity. So I am going to make sure we satisfy all these concerns. So it says we must, we must remain connected to an AC station. And I'm using a Tesla wall connector. The only reason they say that is because it can restart and turn off, I would imagine, at the vehicle's request. Some AC EVSEs don't like to restart after they stop without a plug cycle. Very few, but some don't. During the test, we will discharge below 10% and recharge to 100. Most vehicle features will become unavailable. Interesting. And avoid interacting with your vehicle on the Tesla app. You can cancel the test at any time. And that sounds really great. So vehicle is in park. Vehicle is in park. Battery level is 20% or less. Yes, I drained it to 3. That way it doesn't have to work as hard to drain the battery. We are connected to the internet. Yes, full Wi-Fi. No software updates are scheduled. Correct. No battery or thermal alerts active. That's correct. I did have a thermal issue with this car that has been fixed maybe over a year ago. I had like a valve that was not allowing the battery to get proper cooling. Vehicle is connected, so we need to basically connect this to an AC charging station. I'm also going to shut climate control off. So let's get it connected and see what happens. Well, you join me in my garage. We'll take my Tesla wall connector. In we go with the J3400 port. It has started to charge, which again, we have 48 amp capacity here. Everything is green. We're going to hit start test. Wow, first time I'm seeing this. And discharging battery level 3%. So what it's going to do is probably drain it all the way down and then charge it all the way up. I can already hear fans running. Yeah, we're definitely burning some juice. So I would always recommend just driving the car down as low as possible. That way you don't stress your thermal systems out super hard trying to drain that bottom 20% of the battery. So down here, 3%, 1%, something like that seems to be the kindest on the car's systems. Well, I'm going to leave the Model 3 here overnight plugged in. I can hear the high voltage, probably the inverter's just running a little bit, creating waste heat with the motors, some fans running up there, and you can see we are not pulling any power from the wall connector. It's blue, which means it's waiting. This means that it's waiting. And so, yeah, it'll probably discharge to bottom voltage, charge up to 100, which I've done a couple times on this car and throughout its lifetime. But, I think every 50,000 miles is reasonable to see how well she's holding up. So I'm going to come back in the morning, screens off, cars off, fans are ripping, waste heat things are happening. We'll see you guys in the morning. It is now the next morning and we can see the results. In fact, I already know the results because they've popped up on my mobile app, but I'm curious if the car shows anything. So we should be completed at 100%. There we go. And we can take a look to see if the screen shows anything on the inside after doing the test. Yes, in fact, it does. So let's take a look at the results. Here we are, 81%. And I think that's sort of exactly right on par with what I was thinking. It's actually even pretty good. So yeah, now that we've got the data, this should have recalibrated. It used to show over 260 miles. Now it's only showing 248. Again, the car was showing over 300, maybe 310 when it was new. So we've definitely lost quite a bit of mileage. But hey, this car has been used pretty hard. I will share more thoughts in the next clip, but first I got to go to Starbucks and I need to drain it off 100% because I don't like leaving my batteries up so high, which is maybe why this number's doing better than I expected, because this car normally sits at pretty low state of charge. So let's start it up, drain it down, and we'll be back at the hub for more information. Well, guys, very interesting results here, seeing 81% capacity basically from new. Now, that feels in line with what I'm experiencing. And I'll tell you just a couple thoughts around that number. When we did the 100,000 mile check-in, we estimated around 11 to 12% capacity loss in that first 100,000 miles. That was a few years ago now, and the car has sort of sat around since then. I mean, we've put on another 50,000 miles, of course, but the general rhetoric and testing around battery aging seems to be that most of it happens in the first calendar year of ownership and usage, and then it sort of trails and levels off. I'm not 100% sure that's what we're seeing here with this car. You know, the usage profile in the vehicle changed a bit, but if anything, we got gentler on it. And, you know, I do think adding another, let's just say 7, 8, 9% since the last time, I'd say really around 8% plus or minus 7 to 8% degradation in the last 50,000 miles from new. That does feel a bit high. I was honestly expecting more like 4 or 5% extra. Still, we're within the region because I posted this on my X account. If you don't follow me on X, I'll leave that linked below. And so many of our viewers submitted their battery health test results, and many of them with much lower mileage and much newer vehicles had worse scores than this car. Some of that is just a a factor of what battery they actually have in their vehicle. My impression is this early Panasonic pack that's in the Model 3s, the 74 kilowatt hour packs, not the updated cell that went into the newer ones. There's a really hardy cell. These things last well. They discharge really well. They love to charge fast, especially at low states of charge. And my impression is this cell is pretty great. It's probably an expensive cell. And we all know Tesla has been chasing cost performance with their cells, not in terms of charging performance or anything else. We can look at Cybertruck 4680 as an example where it really charges like crap. I can say that as an owner. And Tesla's always out there bragging about how much money they're saving on every cell. Well, as a consumer, I just want the highest performance cell from a energy density, charging performance, longevity. I want it all. I don't really care so much about the cost because that was still a $120,000 truck. I mean, they could have spent a little bit more money on the cells, maybe given me something a little bit nicer. I will have a capacity test coming on that truck soon. My impression is not great, actually. Back to this particular car, 81% capacity remaining. It feels down on range from new. It's full charging in that 240, 250 mile range, where when this vehicle was new, it would full charge to 310 miles. Now, I'm not exactly sure what wheels I have set in the software, which can affect it. So let's not go off of that. Let's just go off the percentage hit. I really think the first 5 to 7%, which is what most EV owners will expect in the first year, that is noticeable, but it doesn't really impact ownership. Once you start getting close to 20% of your capacity gone, I definitely feel the range loss on this car. Even just driving it around here in northern Colorado, going to Starbucks this morning, I went down to Colton's shop, blasted up the highway. I'm really noticing that, man, this thing just doesn't have the performance that it did in terms of range from day one. So let me tell you how I've used this car that has ended up at these results. Well, the first thing that I always do is, this car sits around a lot. So the biggest thing that my recommendation to everyone is never let your car sit at high state of charge for long periods of time, especially if it's hot outside. The worst thing for a cell is to charge it to 100%, park it in the hottest parking lot you can find, and just bake it up there. That will suffer serious capacity fade over time. And we've seen that because my buddy Timon, we've done one of these tests on this channel with his Model 3 Performance of a very similar vintage of this car. With a third of the miles, his only had about 45,000 miles when we did the test, and it had more degradation than even this Model 3 did at the time. It was an Arizona car, and our suspicion was the previous owner left it at very high state of charge, plugged in all the time, which just totally killed that cell's performance. It's all guesswork, but everything kind of adds up for this one. For this particular car, we live in Colorado. Yes, it gets hot, but it lives inside, either in my garage at home or here at the hub. It's always charged to 50% state of charge. And very, very rarely does this car see more than 50% state of charge, especially for storage. And that is fantastic. This chemistry really loves resting between like 25 and 40% state of charge, really closer to 30% state of charge for just ever. And that is a great way to reduce the impact of calendar aging. So we've been really gentle on this car from a storage perspective. But as I always say, you paid for the battery, you should use the battery. Don't let the car limit you. Just drive it, you paid for it, and then take care of it when it's convenient for you. And that's always been my approach to owning cars. And yeah, we have done many road trips in this vehicle. We have done a high amount of 100% charges. In the sense where I'll charge it to 90, 95, 100% before a road trip, typically 95, because I do try to limit the 100% hits on it, but we'll charge it to 95. But I never let it sit up there very long. It's actually not that hard on your battery to let it get to 100% and then drive away immediately and pull it down. It's really the time that it spends at 100% that's rough on it. And so, this has had quite a few top charges. It's been run very low state of charge very often, which doesn't hurt the cell as much as most people think it does. And this car, I think, is proof of that this thing's been down to single-digit % state of charge, deep below zero, probably 150 times, maybe more, 200 times it's been at 0%. Don't know, but can't be far off with that guess. And the other thing that we've done, that I don't let it limit me, is we have supercharged this car so much. It has a much higher percentage of DC charging than AC charging on this battery pack. And we've never found a real direct correlation that I've seen from fleet data that shows that the higher amount of DC charging leads to quicker degradation. There's always been some inferences, and I'm sure it doesn't totally help compared to AC charging, but it does seem that like the usage of the car in terms of AC versus DC charging doesn't play a massive role into the cell performance over time, at least with this particular chemistry, with these pretty hardy Panasonic early packs in the Model 3 and very early Model Ys. And I'm just, you guys have seen the videos. This car's been on track. We've gotten the battery hot. We've done top speed runs on the Bonneville salt flats with it. It's just been used. And the fact that it's holding up better than many of our viewers' cars that I found based off that X post with half the mileage and newer age really shows that, okay, maybe my theory on really trying to keep the cells at relatively low state of charge most of the time is helping quite a bit. So that's sort of my PSA is use the car. If you're going to drive it every day and you do a lot of miles every day, yep, 80% daily, totally fine. Actually, when I bought this car, Tesla said 90% daily charging limits were okay. Then it got a software update and it said, hey, don't charge it past 80 every day anymore. That was across the Tesla fleet. And I think that's smart because when you really get them up there and they sit, it does degrade performance. So we all know that, the way I drive my cars is typically 50% daily charge limit. You put your limit at what you feel comfortable with. You use the battery when you need to, charge it to 100, drive the piss out of it. And then if it sits for storage, like if you're going on a trip or you're going, leaving it at the airport, just leave it at 50% plugged in, or even at, 30% ideally. But unfortunately, there's no like deep storage mode in these. So you can't leave them plugged in with the charge limit set that low for this brand. Some other brands, BMW, Mercedes, others, not Mercedes, just BMW lets you do that. Oh, maybe Mercedes does as well, actually, now that I think about it. And there you go. That's the performance on this particular car. So after 150,000 miles, we've lost about 19% capacity. It feels a bit high. It's definitely noticeable at this point. It sucks. There's no way around it. I'm sure if we were even gentler on the car and it just sat at very low state of charge for a long time, we would be at, maybe 12% capacity loss at this point. But still, considering all the hard usage this thing has had, I think it's totally acceptable. And now we need to get into just to the last topic, which is how do manufacturers quantify state of health for warranty reasons? Well, it's really hard to measure battery state of health because all it really does is predict past performance, but not future performance. For example, this car at 81% state of health could be fine today. And then there might just be an internal fault with one cell that could just happen out of the blue, which is unfortunately not uncommon, and it could pull the whole battery pack down overnight. So I don't think 81% really is a great way to say, hey, this car is going to last X number of years into the future, because there could be an internal fault with, again, a cell group, a cell itself, wire bond issue under hard acceleration or fast charging that could just snap a wire bond and essentially unfuse the cell from the pack. So there's many other problems. Contactors could go, which would just render the car completely unusable, sitting right here. And again, that 81% wouldn't predict future performance. So I really have a hard time, especially when you're buying a used electric car, recommending like what to look for, because I don't think it's really easy to know what could happen with a car. Generally speaking, 95% of them are fine. They'll just degrade and they'll just last a really long time. I think this car is a great example of that. But there's always going to be some cars that have a weird contactor issue, a fuse issue, a cell problem that can just, everything could look fine, and then it could just go to crap the next day. And we've seen that many times. In fact, my friend Talek from the Charge Positive YouTube channel has been through multiple battery packs on his Tesla Model Y, where based off of his data, you can see a nice normal degradation curve, and then one day randomly, boom, just hits the floor. And there's almost no predicting it. And he's just gotten unlucky with pack after pack for his Tesla Model Y. We've done videos on our channels with his car. And that's just a prime example that measuring state of health does not determine future performance of the car. It just determines the health of the car right now as it sits. So, from a manufacturer standpoint, this car was warranted for 8 years. I think it was a 120,000 mile warranty on this battery. It's out of battery warranty. And it was warranted to the capacity of 70% capacity remaining, within that time period. If the car ever dipped below 70% capacity, then Tesla would put a new battery in this car. There are many different ways to measure capacity in the battery. Tesla has their own proprietary way that's now user accessible to us, but I always feel like maybe the manufacturers will come up with some way to put such a small drain on the battery pack to always look like it has better capacity than maybe it does in real world driving. And I think it's still a little bit too new of an industry to know for sure, but my worry is automakers certainly are not going to put that state of health test in the benefit of the consumer. They're always going to try to make the packs look at their best optimal capacity range. And so I think there needs to be some standardization around how state of health is measured. There is new regulation coming into place that vehicles, especially sold in California and others, will have to have an easily displayed battery capacity graph or number or percentage. And that will go over into the next few years. So, you can expect more tests like this and more state of health measurements to make their way into consumer-facing electric cars in the very near future. Automakers are all working on this. And I'd love to hear some of your thoughts as to how should a capacity test be run? At what discharge cycle should that be compared to from when new? If you guys remember the Nissan Leaf, I have one, it's actually at the office, but my old Nissan Leaf has bars that came from it to show, hey, if the bars are full, you have full capacity. And then as the vehicle ages, I lose bars. But even with that, the BMS has some sway. There's always some confusion. And I've actually had it drop 2 bars and then gain 1 back. And it's never an actually perfect number to gauge the state of health or the capacity on the battery pack. So all of this is still a little bit of dark art. It's a little bit of magic. There's still a lot more to learn. I'm going to be talking to battery experts on a new podcast that I'm starting around electric vehicles, learning more about these things. It's called Hubcast. I'll leave the link down below. It's the first time I'm mentioning it, but they're going to be very in-depth podcast episodes with industry experts talking about topics like this and many, many others. And learning about capacity fade, learning about cell health and performance over time is super important. The last shout out that I'm going to give on this topic is a shout out to our Out of Spec Renew channel. My buddy Alex and other contributors work on our Out of Spec Renew channel, which is all about restoring older electric cars, retrofitting other cars to EVs, and trying to preserve them for as long as possible. I just bought 2 Mitsubishi IMEVs for that channel, and you can see Alex restoring them. We have many other projects coming, including a really cool one that I think you guys are going to be absolutely excited about if everything goes to plan. With all that said, learning about how electric cars are aging, modern electric cars with modern technology is a huge focus of mine. I think the secondary market is very concerned about this, which is why we see such huge depreciation on electric cars, along with many other reasons, admittedly. And we're here just to try to figure out, what's the best way to do all of this. So if you have cool technology, I know there's some cool tech that can like log into a car and predict degradation, reach out to me. If you can run this battery health test and want to shoot a video for our out-of-spec testing channel, just make sure it's an 8-minute video or longer, and we will consider posting it on our out-of-spec testing channel with your test results. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching. See you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.